Hey, folks, it's time for the quote of the day. And today we're going to be quoting a gentleman who many of you might actually know his name, even though you may not really understand a lot of what he talked about. Today we're quoting the Frenchman Jacques Derrida. Today is his birthday. Now, this is a philosopher. This is someone that a lot of people, like I said, may recognize his name because he only died in, I want to say, I think 2004. So I mean, there's videos of him. We've seen him on TV. He's a modern philosopher, and his ideas are ones that I'm gonna have to get into a little bit. I'm gonna give you really the just a little bit of it because it's very deep. But for you to really understand where I'm coming from for the quote of the day, you need to understand a little bit about what he talks about. So if you're not interested in the philosophy aspects of what I do here, if this isn't something that you care about, then go ahead. It's fine. I don't blame you. That being said, there is a term that you hear all the time on social media, especially if you're in the circles I'm in, called deconstruction. You hear this all the time in terms of therapy speak. Sometimes you'll hear it for a lot of different things, but it comes back to Jacques Derrida. This was an idea that he put forward. He is considered the father of destructionism. I don't know if that's a thing, but basically the idea is taking what you take as truth, what you essentially take for granted, what you look at and you assume without ever really kind of looking at as reality, and then breaking it down and saying, well, wait, let me take this apart, let me really look at it, and let me see the truth inside that I have accepted, right? Like we know at this point in time, I think most people know that even the most basic things that we take as our truths, if you're somebody that's a devout Christian or whatever religion, you take that as just like the ultimate truth, right? That's what you believe and that's your thing. So very few people ever take and look at that, right? What is it that I find to be truthful in this? What is it that leads me in this direction? But he takes it to the degree of all of reality, basically. He like light and dark at the very basic level, right? Light, dark, black, white, like all of these things. This kind of binary way of thinking that we have in terms of reality, right? Like a lot of things. Like people think of like feminism and masculinity. People think of, I was about to say masculism, but feminism and masculinity, and these ideas, socialism and capitalism, right? We take these things and we think of them as being like opposites, like two like polar sides of a polar opposite, right? But the reality is that truth oftentimes in any of these instances is not a black and white thing. It's usually in that shade of gray in the middle. And his way of looking at it and his way of kind of breaking it down is instrumental in kind of redefining what is important to yourself and a way of seeing reality. He said in an interview that I saw at one point in time, he made a wonderful point, and I've actually made this point before, not in the way that he did, but the point of perspective and the way that we tend to take our perspective as reality. And he brings forth a great example where he's talking about how you're there on a sunset, or you see a sunset on a beach, and then there's a priest walks up and is looking at the sunset, and then a philosopher walks up and is looking at the sunset, and then a physicist walks up and looks at the sunset. They're all looking at the same exact thing, but they all see very, very different things, right? And this understanding of how our perspective, and inside of that perspective, the way that we break it up into this binary way of, well, this is good and this is bad and this is good and this is bad, this way of, like, when you really start to break it up and break it apart and start to look under the rocks of your beliefs and your understandings of your perspective, then you can really address some of the things that you just believe because, well, you've been told to. You can really deprogram yourself, and you can, again, deconstruct the way that you think. And then the point is, and this is, to what he said, is to rebuild it, right? You break it apart and then you rebuild it. And sometimes you're going to have pieces that don't fit again, and that's fine. You just discard those and you keep going with the new rebuilt version of understanding, because a lot of the things that you will discard as you do that are things that you understand were not yours, right? They were kind of forced into your brain. They were kind of you were told that this is what reality is. Now, these are all ideas and concepts that I've approached in different ways before. I don't think I've ever really given him credit for that, and that's, on me that I didn't do that. But this is something that is so, I mean, there's so much to go into, and so I'm literally giving you not even the surface level of this way of thinking. I'm just giving you something that's easily digestible for people. So, as you think about every day, as you think about the things that you believe and the way that you look at the world and the things that you understand, take a moment and ask yourself why. Like really, really try to take it apart, deconstruct it and look at it and try to figure out why you think this way. Break it into its individual pieces. Break it into, your understanding of how you arrived at this emotional connection to something, how you feel comfortable calling this your reality. Because a lot of times we take what we've been told, or we take what other people tell us is right, or we, whatever it may be, and we just make that part of us. And unfortunately, a lot of people, especially in today's world, don't really take the time to truly deconstruct what it is that they're allowing to inhabit them. And I think that that is a mistake that we make at a societal level. But unfortunately, the only way to fix it is at the individual level. Now, let me get to the quote of the day, because this is one that I'm going to be changing the meaning of it a little bit. Now, this was a snippet of a debate that he was having. This debate took place in, it's 2002 or 2003. I don't remember the date, but he was debating. This is after 9/11, and he was debating moving forward in the world and how we could find peace. Now I'm going to take this and change this a little bit, and I'm absolutely positive that Jacques Derrida, or Derrida, I just said his name wrong, Derrida, wouldn't have a problem with me doing this. This was how he thought. This was the whole point of one of the reasons why he did what he did. He once said, "Peace is only possible when one of the warring sides take the first step, the hazardous initiative, the risk of opening up dialogue, and decides to make the gesture that will lead not only to armistice, but to peace." Let me read that again. Peace is only possible when one of the warring sides takes the first step, the hazardous initiative, the risk of opening up dialogue, and decides to make the gesture that will lead not only to an armistice, but to peace. Now, obviously, he means this on a global political scale, right? Like that's how he's talking about it at the time. But I promise you, having read some of his work, I promise you that he would take this in a much more personal level as well. And that's how I'm taking it right now. I think that this is a very, very important way of understanding interpersonal relationships and understanding, familial relationships and understanding any relationship that you have with any being, anything, or anybody. The way that you deconstruct things, the way that you deal with people. There comes a point in time when you are at war. Sometimes it is with yourself, and oftentimes it is with, the situation that you're in your relationships. And all too often, the inclination for almost every person is to become defensive and proliferate your arms, if you will. You continue to build up your case. You're resentful, you're angry, you're hurt, whatever it may be, and you continue to build your case as to why this won't work, as to why this is horrible, as to why this person is this way, and why this person, and we all do this, we've all done it. And the problem is that there is no true resolution until you or the other person, one of you, decides to put down your weapons and say, "I'm here to sue for peace. I'm here to try to make it work. I will disarm myself." Someone has to do that on a personal level. Someone has to be willing to do that. And all too often we are too hurt and in too much pain to understand that sometimes that needs to be us. And that includes when we're, at war with ourselves. Sometimes we need to drop our defenses and take the chance that we get hurt again. Because when we do that, then we know that we have healed to the point where we are willing to accept more pain to give people a chance. Because sometimes that's the only way to find peace, whether it's within ourselves or in our relationships. Happy birthday to Jacques Derrida. To the rest of you, take care of yourself. Take care of others. I'll talk to you soon.